Amen. You may be seated. Don't be afraid. I know that you are looking for Jesus. These are the words that the angel shared with Mary Magdalene and Mary as they come to the tomb. They come seeking Jesus, but not in the way that we are aware. For them, Easter hasn't happened. For them, Jesus is still entombed. He is still dead. So they come looking for Jesus to anoint his body, to offer him the final rituals, to hand him over to God as a community. But yet, when they get there, the stone is rolled away, and there's this angel so powerful and so overwhelming in the space that it causes a great earthquake to occur. Something has happened. Something has changed. And then the angel says, I know you're looking for Jesus. He's not here. He's raised from the dead. In this moment, the two Marys who have come to see Jesus experience a miracle, the conquering of death and the overturning of the world. You see, I think these words by the angel are not just for Mary, they are for each and every single one of us. And I think if we're honest with ourselves, isn't that exactly what we're here to do? To look for Jesus? Now, on the surface level, if someone asked you why you go to church on Sunday, we might not say that, right? There are a variety of reasons why we are here on this Easter Sunday. For some of us, we just wanted to come hear the good music and smell the incense. Some of us, we're here because a family member wanted us to come to be a part of this. It's not really our thing, but we're here in support of others. For some of us earlier, we came for the Easter egg hunt, and that was really what was important. But if we dive down deeper, if we really dive down and are honest with ourselves, if we look into our heart of hearts, I think we could all say that we're here looking for Jesus. We might not use those words, but it's what we're seeking. And the reason why I say that is because we live in a world and in a culture that overwhelms us with pain and suffering and brokenness. Is it not? Do we not get frustrated and tired and just over the constant hatred and violence when we continue to see wars take people away from their families and break families apart? When we continue to see acts of violence done with guns in our schools and in our faith communities and all across the United States and nothing is done, aren't we looking for something better? When we see the increasing disparity between those who have much wealth and those who have none, for those who can put food on their tables and those who their SNAP benefits are being taken and they have fewer and fewer resources to feed their families, do we not cry out looking for something better, more loving? When we see our leaders, our government leaders in federal and state levels spending so much time arguing and competing against one another that they can't even address the concerns that are impacting all of our lives. The audacity that in some places in our country, our voice isn't heard because it's thrown out by legislators because they fear somebody of a different opinion, of a different color. My friends, don't we call out? Don't we cry out for something more? Aren't we looking for a better world, a better life for ourselves and our families and our neighbors? Yes, I think if we're honest with ourselves, we would say that we're looking for Jesus. We're looking for someone who will change everything. And that's the power of Easter. That's the power of the resurrection. Because for Mary Magdalene and the other Mary, for them in that moment, they got to witness before anyone else how God overcomes even something so permanent, so finite as death. God's power overwhelms and overcomes it, and the dead are raised to new life, and through it, all things are made possible. And here's the beautiful thing about the resurrection. The resurrected Jesus is not beholden to one particular time or place or people or culture. The seeds of the resurrection are sown throughout all of creation. We didn't read this epistle this morning, but we did last night at the vigil service. But in Paul's letter to the church in Rome, he speaks about how each of us must be crucified with Christ in order that we might be raised up with Christ. And the point being there is not that we have to put our bodies to physical death, but that if we wish to live a new life, if we wish to have a world that is more focused on love than hate, peace over violence, dignity over depravity, it means we must let our old ways of living die. We must allow ourselves to be broken open with Christ so that these seeds may start to grow, so that the new life can come from within. And that's the beautiful thing, because those seeds are everywhere. Which means when we cry out, when we seek Jesus, when we look for Jesus, we only have to look as far as our next door neighbor, the person sitting next to us in the pew this morning. We have to look no further than the people who bag our groceries and serve us our food, or clean our homes, or fix our yards, or clean up the trash in our buildings. We have to look no further than our children and our grandparents and our parents. We have to look no further, and this is the challenge. We have to look no further than the people who drive us mad, who we disagree with fundamentally the most, who challenge our own understanding of morality. For even within them is the resurrected Jesus and the seeds of new life. And if we can't venture out that far, if that makes us too uncomfortable, you'll like this one. You only have to look as far as the closest mirror, because the seeds of the resurrected Jesus are in each and every single one of us too. And I think this is why the angel, and then later on Jesus says, don't be afraid. We can understand in the moment why the two Marys would be terrified. You know, you got this angel and this earthquake, but perhaps the most terrifying bit is that they knew, just as we know, to receive this new life means that our lives must change. And that terrifies us because we're afraid of losing all that we have. But it's only by being broken open and letting go of what we once had in the life we once lived in order to receive the new birth, the new life that Christ gifts us today. The best analogy parallel to this that I can come up with in my mind is someone who's about to become a parent for a first time. Now, even if some of us haven't had kids, I haven't yet, I think we've witnessed enough people around us to be able to understand this. Think of that person, whether it's yourself or your friend, who's waiting for that first child to come. There's so much joy and excitement. They're preparing the way. They're preparing the place. They're just so happy and thrilled. And yet, it's terrifying, isn't it? It's scary. Because you know, within a short amount of time, there's going to be this little life in front of you that you are responsible for and you have to take care of. And once that child comes in, there's no returning it to the store. your life is changed forever. And in my opinion, changed for the better. The same is true with our relationship with God, and it's true with our relationship in this space with the resurrected Jesus. You see, being terrified doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Perhaps we're terrified because the thing we've longed for, the thing we hoped for, is at our fingertips. When we cry out for justice and mercy, the way that we can live this resurrected life, the way that we can help the Spirit move through us, the way that we can become instruments of unconditional love is letting old ways die and let new ways come forward. It means to put some flesh on it, to not just give a bag of groceries to someone who's hungry, but to strive together with them to figure out what is the root cause that caused all of this hunger in the first place, and uproot it and tear it down. It means that when we are in spaces where we see abject poverty and homelessness, it's not enough just to put someone in a home, to give them shelter. The resurrection life says, what caused this in society that forced this person to be without a home in the first place? And when we struggle to understand why we have such stark differences in the world, whether that's political, cultural, moral, ideological, perhaps the resurrected Jesus in us would lead us not to walk away from that conversation, but to lean into it and to listen deeply, just the way that we hope that people will honor our dignity by doing the same in return. That's a lot. It's a little terrifying, isn't it? But there's so much joy in it, my friends. The resurrection is here within our midst, within our hearts. And the beautiful thing is we don't have to have it all figured out right here and now. We don't wake up one day and boom, we're Jesus and have it all figured out. The gift of the resurrection is that we have God's time to work within this. We have our whole lifetimes and then beyond to live into this resurrection, which means when it seems overwhelming, we can bring it down from the macro to the micro. And think about what is our one step? What is the one thing that we can do and change? And I think that's my question for us today. What is the one thing that you can lay down permanently today? What is the one thing that you can let die in your life so that the resurrection can give birth to something new within you? We might not think that that's a big thing, but it's huge. Because if each of us do one small thing to help with God and with Christ to make this world a more loving place, a more kind place, a more generous, justice-oriented, peaceful place, the ripple effects are huge. So what is the one thing that you will let die today so that God can raise up something new within you and through it change the world? And through it all, may we never forget the words of the angel and the words of Jesus as we go about proclaiming this message in our words and in our lives and in our being. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Amen.